The first time I came to Grand Bank, I must have been 12 or 13. Historically, this is one of the most important towns in Newfoundland, but I didn't even know it existed back then. I went there for a soccer tournament, and when they said we were going to Grand Bank, I thought they were cracked. I thought they were talking about the Grand Banks, like we were going to go set up a soccer field in some giant fishing trawler. But nope, they meant Grand Bank, the town of. Coastal, yes, but located on solid dry land. I was pretty good at soccer. Basketball was definitely my sport, even as a little fella, but as far as soccer goes, I could definitely play. Same goes for baseball. From May 2-4 until sometime in September every year, I played basketball at the courts down at St. David's on my own time, pretty much from the time the sun came up in the morning until they turned the lights off at the softball field in the night, except for if I had a soccer game or a baseball game. Basketball was easy. I'd grab my ball and go shoot around by myself even if no one else was around yet. But soccer and baseball were organized. We had uniforms. We followed a schedule. Mount Pearl Minor soccer, Mount Pearl Minor baseball. It felt kind of serious. I never made all-star teams. I usually thought I should have, but what do I know? But one year I made the Mount Pearl B team for soccer, and they told us we were going to train to get ready for a tournament in Grand Bank. I may not be able to remember exactly whether it was 1992 or 1993, but I remember it being one of the best summers of my life. I think my coach's last name was Hillier, and I remember he was a super nice guy. Maybe Rob or Rod Hillier, but I can't remember. He'd probably be around 50 now. One of my all-time best buddies was on the team, and a few other good friends as well. And even though we were young, I remember we all had a blast at practice all summer up at the Mount Pearl Junior High pitch, the MPI pitch now. And we had a blast during the actual trip too, of course. Playing in an all-star soccer tournament was deadly. I drove across the island with my family once when I was 6 to take the ferry port of Basque. And we made a bunch of weekend trips up to Traytown and splash and putt over the years in the summer. I also have family in Harbor, Maine, so shout out to my cousin Randy Wall, who has a bone to pick with me for never mentioning Harbor, Maine in any of my other videos so far. But we spent a lot of time in Harbor, Maine when I was a little kid as well. But this trip to Grand Bank was my first time spending like a significant amount of time off the Avalon. It was so different from Mount Pearl, and I loved it. Even as a young kid, I didn't notice what was happening in this fishing town that had just started to face the reality of the cod moratorium. To be fair, the hardest effects of the moratorium weren't felt instantly, so it may not have been super apparent anyway, even though I was a kid and didn't really see how things were going in the town. But the troubles didn't start with the moratorium. The fishing industry in Newfoundland, and specifically in towns like Grand Bank, had been struggling for a few years, and in Grand Bank, the major fish plant actually shut down the previous year. But Grand Bank had a few strokes of luck that many other towns in Newfoundland didn't have, and that fish plant that shut down in 1991 reopened under new ownership, and it's actually still running to this very day. Still though, the moratorium was a big blow to a town like this, a town that had existed because of the fishery for well over 200 years. But all I saw was a beautiful town and a bunch of friendly kids around my age, and I loved it. I still love it. What about the actual soccer? Well, how did we do? Our team wasn't great, and we knew that, so we had realistic expectations. Now, if you know anything about soccer in Newfoundland, you probably know that it's a big deal, and teams from the Burin Peninsula are no joke. I may not have known about the town of Grand Bank as a kid, but I definitely knew about towns like Lawn and Burin, and definitely St. Lawrence, and I knew about them because of soccer. So we didn't think we were going to walk in as a bunch of townies and just breeze through the tournament. We definitely didn't do that. We won one game, and I scored the winning goal in that game, I swear to God. It was against a team from St. Pierre and Miquelon. I sit on these bleachers right now for the first time in around 30 years, and it's all so vivid. I remember there being a second set of bleachers back then, like right next to this one. You can still actually see the place on the grass where they were. We sat here between our games watching the other teams play their games in the tournament. There was so many things happening at this very point in time in Grand Bank, and other fishing towns just like it, that would shape the direction of Newfoundland's journey up to this very day. But despite all the difficulties that were just beginning to show themselves, I was a kid on a summer adventure in a town that will forever hold a special place in my heart. I'm really glad I'm here right now.